Kody Brown has always tried to control the narrative. For years on Sister Wives, he walked into every scene, puffing out his chest, acting like the head of the family, the man in charge, the one with all the answers. But in a single unpolished clip from Special Forces, that image cracked in front of millions. There was no TLC editing to soften the blow, no carefully crafted storyline to make him look strong. Just raw footage of a man trying to prove his toughness, and instead exposing just how fragile his power really is. Fans who watched couldn't believe it. The man who demanded respect from his wives and children was suddenly the one being brought down, and not in some private moment, but on camera, for the world to see. Hi friends, I'm Indira, and this is TLC Reality Talk. If you've been following the Browns for years, you know how rare this kind of exposure is. Make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss any of our breakdowns. And tell me in the comments, do you see this as long overdue justice, or just another round of TV entertainment cashing in on family dysfunction? I want to hear your thoughts, because this moment has divided the audience. What makes this clip so powerful isn't just Kody being humiliated in a ring. It's the weight of everything that came before. The arrogance, the favoritism, the years of neglecting children like Isabel when she needed surgery, the way he elevated Robin while Christine, Janelle, and Mary were left out in the cold. All of that history came crashing down the moment Kody's armor slipped. His downfall isn't about a boxing match. It's about a man who built his entire identity on control and bravado, only to discover that when the camera stopped protecting him, the truth speaks louder than his act ever could. Kody always wanted the world to see him as the strong patriarch, the leader who carried the family on his shoulders for. On the earliest seasons of Sister Wives, he positioned himself as the man who could handle it all. For wives, more than a dozen kids, and the weight of a plural marriage under the eyes of the public. He strutted into interviews talking about responsibility and manhood, reminding everyone that he was the head of the family. But the truth is, that strength was always more about performance than reality. You can see it in the way he shut down conversations the moment they got uncomfortable. When Christine dared to voice her frustrations, he dismissed her as emotional or unreasonable. When Janelle tried to point out financial problems, he brushed her off as though she didn't understand the bigger picture. And when Mary longed for connection after her own heartbreak, he made it clear he had no interest in repairing that relationship. His control wasn't about listening or guiding. It was about keeping the upper hand, silencing dissent, and reminding his wives that his word came first. The pattern was just as clear with the kids. Think about Gabriel and Garrison during the pandemic. He ignored their pain, their need for a father, and instead focused on enforcing his own rules. Or Isabel, facing major back surgery, who begged her dad to come support her through one of the hardest moments of her young life. Instead of being there, he argued that traveling wasn't safe for him, leaving her to face it without his presence. For viewers, that was one of the most heartbreaking cracks in his carefully polished Father of the Year image. Even in group discussions, Kody presented himself as the only adult in the room, talking over his wives and dismissing their concerns. He wore that tough guy mask, the man who claimed he was protecting the family, while in reality he was protecting his ego. And if you look closely, you can see that the image was never as solid as he wanted it to appear. Christine was quietly breaking under the pressure. Janelle was pulling away, tired of being ignored. Mary was already emotionally abandoned. Robin was the only one benefiting, because Kody made her the center of his world. So by the time the Special Forces clip dropped, fans weren't shocked to see Kody exposed. They'd been watching the cracks for years. The difference was that this time, he couldn't hide behind TLC's edits or spin the story in his favor. His tough guy act finally collapsed under the weight of reality. And the world got a front row seat. Kody's favoritism toward Robin has been one of the most glaring truths on Sister Wives, and it's the thread that pulled the entire family apart. From the moment Robin entered the picture, the balance shifted. Suddenly, time, money, and attention seemed to funnel straight into her household. The other wives noticed it, the kids noticed it, and the audience noticed it. Kody tried to disguise this by saying he was being fair or protecting everyone, but the show's footage tells another story. Take Isabel's scoliosis surgery, one of the most painful, raw storylines we've ever seen. This was a teenage daughter facing a massive operation that would change her life. All she wanted was her dad by her side, holding her hand, showing up when she needed him most. And what did Kody do? He argued. He made excuses about COVID, about safety, about travel. He placed his comfort above his daughter's suffering. Isabel had to go into that surgery without the support of the father who claimed he was always the protector. That episode left fans shaken because it stripped away Kody's mask. A father who truly embodied strength would have found a way to be there. His absence screamed louder than any words could. And that wasn't an isolated moment. The kids have voiced again and again how neglected they felt. Garrison and Gabriel in particular laid it bare during the pandemic. They weren't just upset about rules. They were desperate for their father's attention. Gabriel's confession about forgetting his own birthday because his dad didn't even call, that was a gut punch. It wasn't about cake or celebration. It was about feeling invisible in the eyes of the man who was supposed to love him unconditionally. Gabriel's tears showed viewers exactly what years of favoritism and neglect had done. It broke the bond between father and child. Then there's Garrison, who openly challenged Kody for prioritizing Robyn's household while ignoring everyone else. Their arguments weren't about rebellion, as Kody tried to frame them. They were about a son demanding the bare minimum: acknowledgement, presence, care. Watching those scenes, you could feel the hurt boiling underneath Garrison's frustration. He wasn't just fighting about rules. He was fighting for a father who had already checked out. Meanwhile, Robyn and her children received a very different version of Kody. He showed up for them. He lived in their home full-time. He celebrated with them, supported them, and gave them the emotional investment that his other kids were starved of. To the rest of the family, that favoritism was like salt in the wound. It proved what they had felt for years. Kody's love wasn't equal, and his loyalty was no longer to the plural family. It was to Robyn alone. The emotional fallout was devastating. Christine reached a breaking point because she saw her kids hurting, especially Isabel. Janelle grew more vocal about the unequal treatment of her children, especially during those raw confrontations about Gabriel and Garrison. Mary faded further into the background, left without even the scraps of attention she once received. The kids learned through experience that their father's promises of unity and strength didn't apply to them. So when fans saw Kody stumbling in that Special Forces clip, it wasn't just about a man taking a hit in a boxing match. It was about years of children crying UT for his love, wives begging for fairness, and the blatant favoritism that tore everything down. His humiliation in that ring felt like karmic justice to viewers because it mirrored the humiliation his family had endured under his neglect. Special Forces is not Sister Wives. There are no cozy couch interviews, no careful edits to paint over awkward moments, no producers bending the narrative to protect Kody's image. It's a show built on stripping celebrities down, putting them through brutal military-style challenges where only raw grit and honesty survive. And that's exactly why Kody thought it would be the perfect stage to prove he still had that toughness he bragged about for years. No wives to question him, no kids to call him out, just Kody and the chance to perform strength for a brand new audience. He came in with bravado, reminding viewers of his so-called athletic past, his days of being fit and competitive. You could see him puffing himself up, as if to say, "I've still got it." But the reality was much harsher. Competing alongside trained athletes and celebrities used to physical intensity, Kody's performance looked out of place. He wasn't the unshakable patriarch anymore. He was just another contestant trying, and failing, to keep up. The boxing clip made it painfully obvious. Kody stepped into that ring with swagger, but it didn't last long. His swings were wild and sloppy, more like a man desperate to prove something than someone who knew what he was doing. Within moments, the confidence drained from his face. His movements became clumsy, his body language screamed discomfort, and the illusion of control evaporated under the bright lights. Viewers weren't watching a strong leader anymore. They were watching a man unravel. And the reactions were brutal. Fans flooded social media with commentary, calling out how ironic it was to see Kody, who spent years belittling his wives and children while pretending to be the strong protector, crumbling on national television. Some called it poetic justice, others labeled it karma finally catching up. Clips were shared and reshared with captions mocking his claims of authority. The same audience that once watched him ignore Isabel's pain or dismiss Gabriel's tears now watched him get dismissed by reality itself. It was humiliation laid bare, the kind Kody couldn't talk his way out of. No excuses about safety, no lectures about loyalty, no favoritism to fall back on. Just Kody Brown, stripped of his edits, stripped of his ego, shown for who he really is. What made that Special Forces clip sting so deeply wasn't just the physical side of Kody struggling in a boxing ring. It was the symbolism. For years, Kody built himself up as the leader, the protector, the tough guy who carried his family, even when it was obvious that most of the weight was being shouldered by his wives and children. He insisted on being the authority, the one in charge, the man who couldn't be questioned. But in that raw, unedited moment, all of that image collapsed. The ring became more than a stage for entertainment. It became a mirror, reflecting back the truth that sister wives had been hinting at for years. Kody's power was always fragile, always an act, and now the world could see it without the shield of TLC editing. Fans didn't see sloppy swings and drained confidence as just bad boxing. They saw years of ego finally breaking under pressure. They saw the same man who skipped Isabel's surgery now stumbling when it was his turn to show up. They saw the same father who forgot Gabriel's birthday, unable to muster focus in the ring. They saw the same husband who played favorites with Robin falter when there was no one left to protect him from the fallout. Every wild swing and every awkward shuffle wasn't just about Kody fighting an opponent. It was about Kody fighting against the truth of who he really is, and losing. That's why people called it poetic justice. The man who claimed leadership couldn't lead himself through a single challenge. The man who preached toughness collapsed the moment things got real. The man who spent years dismissing the pain of others was suddenly the one being dismissed by the audience. His humiliation felt like a metaphor for the family's pain, a kind of karmic echo of all the neglect and favoritism that tore the Browns apart. And here's the thing. Kody couldn't talk his way out of this one. He couldn't sit on a couch and blame Christine for being emotional. He couldn't accuse Janelle's kids of being rebellious. He couldn't say Mary wasn't trying hard enough. He couldn't lean on Robin to defend him. The clip spoke louder than any of his words ever could. For viewers who had watched the wives and children carry years of hurt, seeing Kody stripped of his armor was more than entertaining. It felt like accountability, even if it was only symbolic. Christine, Janelle, and Mary spent years living under Kody's version of leadership. But by the time that Special Forces clip aired, each of them had already chosen a different path. Christine was the first to draw the line. She looked at Isabel's heartbreak. She looked at the constant favoritism toward Robin, and she decided enough was enough. Her choice to leave wasn't just about her own happiness. It was about showing her kids that they deserved more than neglect. And since stepping away, she's been radiant. Building a new life that centered on love, joy, and family bonds that actually feel supportive. Janelle followed her own truth as well. Always the practical one, she tolerated Kody's controlling ways longer than most, trying to make it work for the sake of her kids. But when Gabriel and Garrison were openly hurting, she refused to stand by while Kody dismissed them. Her fiery confrontation with him on camera showed a mother protecting her children. Even when it meant standing against the man who was supposed to be their foe, either. Since then, Janelle has stepped into her independence, showing fans what real strength looks like, not posturing in a boxing ring, but standing firm for her family's dignity. Mary's journey was quieter, but no less powerful. After years of emotional abandonment and the pain of the catfishing scandal, she tried again and again to earn a place in Kody's world. But eventually, she had to face the reality that she'd been left out long before the official separation. Letting go was painful, but it allowed her to start rebuilding her sense of self beyond the shadow of a man who never truly valued her. And then there are the kids, who found their voices louder than ever. Gabriel bravely told the world how forgotten he felt, his tears cutting through Kody's excuses. Garrison demanded accountability, refusing to let his father dismiss him as disobedient. Isabel stood as living proof of how much damage Kody's absence could cause, her quiet pain carrying more weight than Kody's defenses ever could. These young adults didn't just absorb the neglect, they turned it into testimony, speaking truths that no amount of editing could erase. All of this created a striking contrast. While Kody appeared increasingly isolated, clinging to Robin, cut off from the majority of his children and humiliated on a show that was supposed to make him look strong, his ex-wives and kids were thriving. Christine rebuilt her joy. Janelle embraced her freedom. Mary rediscovered herself. The children, though scarred by neglect, grew stronger and more vocal. The family Kody thought he controlled slipped from his grasp, and in losing them, he lost the very image of patriarchal strength he had spent decades trying to sell. That Special Forces clip didn't just spark conversation about Kody. It also forced fans to think about the way reality TV works. Why do networks keep giving men like him platforms, even after years of showing toxic behavior? Sister Wives made its mark because it revealed the dysfunction inside a plural marriage. But season after season, Kody's control, favoritism, and neglect were repackaged as entertainment. And now, instead of fading into the background, he was given a brand new stage to perform toughness on Special Forces, only to collapse under the pressure. It raises a bigger question. Are we watching accountability, or are we just watching the same cycle of dysfunction being monetized again and again? For viewers, the feelings are complicated. On one hand, many laughed at the humiliation. Social media turned that boxing clip into a symbol of karma, the moment Kody finally got what he deserved. But on the other hand, fans were frustrated too. After everything the wives and kids endured, why is Kody still the one-handed opportunities and airtime? Why do the people who suffered from his neglect have to keep watching him stumble across new shows while their healing happens quietly in the background? The irony is that Kody keeps chasing relevance. Desperate to prove he's still strong, still worthy of the spotlight. He wants the world to see him as the man in charge, the same way he once demanded respect from his family. But every step he takes to preserve that image seems to backfire. The Special Forces humiliation didn't cement his toughness. It exposed his weakness. Meanwhile, the people he neglected are moving forward without him. Christine is glowing in her new chapter. Janelle is finding her independence. Mary is redefining herself, and the kids are speaking out in ways that make them stronger. So when we look at that clip, it's not just about Kody swinging wildly in a ring. It's about a man desperately clinging to a spotlight he no longer deserves, while the people he left behind are building real, meaningful lives away from his shadow. That's the truest accountability. Not a TV boxing match, but the undeniable reality that Kody has lost the family he once controlled, and the world finally sees him for what he really is. When you think back to that Special Forces clip, the image is unforgettable. Kody Brown, the man who spent years building himself up as a leader, a protector, the tough guy of Sister Wives, stood there with no edits, no producers to clean up the rough edges, no family he could talk over. Just Kody, exposed, swinging wildly, his ego stripped down in front of the world. For fans who have watched the pain he caused, it felt like a reckoning. For others, it felt like yet another example of TV cashing in on dysfunction. And that's the question I want to leave with you. Was this real justice for the years of favoritism, neglect, and broken trust we saw play out on Sister Wives? Or was it simply another ratings ploy, another way for networks to profit off Kody's downfall while the people he hurt keep quietly rebuilding their lives? Because the truth is, the cost of his choices can't be measured in one clip. It lives in Isabel's tears when her father skipped her surgery. It lives in Gabriel's heartbreak when his birthday was forgotten. It lives in Christine, Janelle, and Mary finally walking away, reclaiming their dignity. It lives in the children who found their voices only after years of silence. Kody's humiliation may have been public, but their pain was real. Friends, thank you so much for watching and for sharing this space with me. I'm Indira, and this is TLC Reality Talk. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, hit that like button, and tell me in the comments. Do you see Kody's humiliation as well-deserved justice or just another round of reality TV exploitation? I can't wait to read your thoughts.